My name's Don from mlcrecording.com. In this video, I want to show you how to take stems that are created somewhere else, whether on another digital audio workstation or a mixing board or whatever the case might be, and how to read them into a digital audio workstation software and create an output. So very basic, being able to create an MP3 file. And the scenario I'm doing this for is that my bandmates, they have a recording board, or it's a mixing board, that they use in their practice space, and it has the ability to record. And it actually has the ability to do multi-track record. And so what we want to do is record the practices, walk away with the stems or a file for each channel that's getting recorded, and then use a digital audio workstation to read them in and produce an output like song files so that they can listen to the songs they did on a particular practice and be able to help improve or whatever they want to use them for. And so I have figured out that it's very easy to do that. I use Pro Tools, I use Studio One, I use Logic, but those are all professional, paid-for programs. And what I wanted to do is go out and find a software package, a digital audio workstation software, for free. And I found one. The software package is called Tracktion. They dropped recently a free version. It's called Waveform 13 is what I'm using. And it's a full-up DAW. It is not a, try it before you buy it kind of thing. It's a full-up DAW. And we're going to show you as simple as possible, and for no money, except for your time, how you can do what I'm explaining here in Tracktion or Waveform 13. So let's take a look at taking one of the band's practice files or sessions, and we're going to drop them into Tracktion, and we're going to show you how easy it is to play them back and then start modifying them to make things sound better. Anyways, let's take a look. So here we are in Waveform 13, and this is what's called the start page or the welcome page. So when you first start the software, you come up to this page. You can configure it to go elsewhere, but for now, this is not a tutorial in waveform per se. This is just going to show how to get stems into a project and get them to the point where they can be played and then further down the line manipulated and modified to make sure that the track sounds good. And so what I want to do is I want to create a new project. So from the welcome screen, you can go to the bottom here and say new project. And we'll see that we get a dialog here where we can name the project. I'm going to call it the B-Bones Band Practice underscore 071525. Again, I name things so that I can kind of understand what it is just by looking at it. Let me just correct that. All right. And then the location is where you want this to be. I usually put things on an external drive, and so I'm going to go to my external drive. We're keeping it under Video, Tracktion, Media, and then we're going to go ahead and create it there. Now, we can take all the other defaults. We're not worried about anything, and let's see how it goes. So we'll say Create Project. So what we end up doing is going into the project view, and the project view, by default, it looks like it gives you some basic tracks here, which we really don't need because we're going to create new tracks. You can create projects with no tracks. I just took the default. And it's pretty easy to get rid of them because we don't need tracks 1 through 8 here. So I'm going to highlight it and say delete, 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 delete. If you notice, the numbers don't change, so it's shifting everything from the bottom up. Okay, we have no tracks in our project now, and we want to start from scratch. So the idea here is to drag each of the stems that we got from our practice into the DAW. And again, DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. And so we're going to do that. So in the upper left-hand corner here, you want to go to Files. And then we want to go off and find our external hard drive. In my case, I'm working on a Mac here. So under Volumes, and then I have one called MLC Mac 4. And then Videos is the folder that we're working in. Tracktion Media. And then we want to go into a file folder where all the stems are. I've got a couple in here, but we're going to go to the Bones Band stems. And if you notice here, I have a list of all of the stem files that we got from our practice. And just as a side note, you'll notice that each of these files is, the name has been changed so that it actually reflects what is in that file. And so you probably might know that already, but when I got the stems from the SD card we pulled out of the mixer, it was just, some numbers and a TR01.wave, TR02.wave. So I really didn't know who was on each one. And so I went through each one and I figured out what the channels were recording. And I changed their names accordingly. So I put a 1 in front of it, which is the track number that we're recording. BB Band stands for the Bob Bones Band. The date in which the recording was done, 7/15/25. And then what is actually on that track. And then it says TR01 or 2 or 3, whatever the tracks are. So it's super easy now to understand what's coming in here. So how do we get these files that are on the left-hand side, how do we get them into the project? Well, we're just going to drag and drop them. However, before I do this, I have noticed that the default behavior for Waveform 13 is that it turns on the ability to see if there's any tempo information in the files. There shouldn't be any here. And modify the file such that it matches the tempo. We don't want to do that. And again, I say by default. So what we want to do is down in the lower, actually, I'm sorry, on the top here, we're going to go to Settings. And we want to go down to, let's see, General. And somewhere in the Editing section, we're going to find something that says Detect Tempo of Imported Audio Files. This drove me crazy because I had another set of stems that I was working on, and when I brought them in, several of the stems had tempo information embedded in the file. And so in my case, it took the file and it shortened it, and when you played it back, it sounded like Alvin and the Chipmunks. It made it really fast. And so we don't want to do that. So I believe in my installation, this was checked on. And I noticed that when I dragged a stem into the project, it did some stuff and it said rendering, which meant it was changing the track. We don't want that. We want to have this unchecked. Okay? So make sure that when you first go in, and I think when you uncheck it here, it's unchecked forever. It's not a project thing, it's a global thing. Okay, let's go back to our project now, and let's start bringing the files in. So if you click on a file, you'll notice it's playing, right? So it's a way for you to review what's going on, right? As you touch each one. So this first one, I can, over on the right-hand side of the file, I can hit stop, and then you get a little play button there. I don't want to play them. I already know what they are. So track 01, just grab the file and land it in this gutter area here on the left of the timeline. And there it is. There's the file. We'll get the second one in, just drag it to the gutter there. Third one in, drag it to the gutter, so on and so forth. And so I'm just going to quickly do these until we get all our tracks in. Okay, now we have all 24 tracks in our project. We can scroll up and down and look at them. What you'll notice though in this particular case is track 4, it looks empty, it has no color. And that's because there is nothing in that file. We can scroll all the way to the right hand side. Let's squish it down here so we can see the entire length of this project. You'll see that there's nothing there. The other thing I noticed is this green track here. This turned out to be a fiddle, which was playing somewhere down here. It's shorter than the rest of the tracks, right? See, all the other ones are nice and straight all the way down. So I have a feeling that this green one, the fiddle, is not going to be much use to us, okay? You can, if you want, go through, since you can see in each of the tracks here, you can see the file name, so you know what it is. This is Bob's vocal, Leanne's vocal, another female's vocal. You know, you come down, you got drums, you got some that are empty. So as you go through them, there's really nothing much or anything useful recorded. So you can use that as a way to organize yourself. And also what you can do is, if I really wanted to name this track here, I could highlight it, right click on it, and say rename track. And I can say Bob dash vocals. All right, and you can do that. It's up to you. It's just something that's going to take you time, when really all you want to do is get the files in here and get them to the point where we can play. And so let's do that. Let me rewind this file, and we're going to see when we hit play, everything should be in time, because each file produced by the recording console started at the same time. So 0 really is 0 for every single track. And then when we play, let's actually see if it's going to sound good or not. Well, that's not bad. Well, at least we can hear what's going on in the room. But there's more to do. So this is the biggest hurdle to get over, is to get the tracks into the project and be able to hit play, and the project plays. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another video here. And what we'll do is we'll poke around a little in each track and see if we need to make changes to maybe turn the bass down or turn the drums down or get the vocals a little hotter in the mix, so that you can get something that kind of sounds good. If you think about the 3 things that you can do to really make this sound better, as you can raise and lower the volume of a particular track, and you can pan tracks left and right. And so I'm not quite sure if any of this was really recorded with stereo in mind. You can do that. So if you had 2 mics over the drums, you'd want to pan one left and one right. If you had a piano or an organ that gave you a stereo signal, you'd want to pan one and pan one left, one right, and so on and so forth. So let's see how we can do this in the next video. Hopefully this video right here got you to the point where you can drop it in and you can play it. Okay, in this part of the video, now that we've imported all of our tracks, we got them all in, It seems to play okay. If we hit play, so we can hear it, but the mix isn't very good. The piano might be a little loud, kind of hard to hear the guitar is good. And so we're going to do a little of that. But again, not an extensive production, but just to get it to the point where we can create a file and we can go ahead and save that file and share it with our bandmates. But in this kind of recording, what the tracks are is it's an hour and some minutes of recording, nonstop. And so what we need to do, if we want to know what each song is we need to scroll through the project and figure out where the song ends and where the song starts again. Because in the recording board that my bandmates were using, when they hit stop and they hit record again, it just continues on recording. It doesn't create a whole new file. It just appends onto the end of the tracks that it's already recording. So we have to find a way to figure out where the song starts and ends. And so what I have here is I can look at the most prominent signal, which could be the bass. Looks like right here, the bass. And I'm assuming that time 0 is the beginning or the start of the recording. And if we hit play, we can tell it's not necessarily the start of the song, but that's where he started recording. All right? So what I did here is I can scroll to the right and I can look to see where the breaks are in the bass track. And it looks like there's one right here. And so if I just place my cursor here and I hit play, by the way, play typically is the space bar on your keyboard or on the screen in the lower right corner here, I can go ahead and hit play. So let me do that. Okay, this sounds like we're getting to the end of the song. And then because the next track that gets recorded starts right up, we're going to find out where that is. Right there. And if you noticed, when we went from one track to the next, you can tell that it shifted there. So let's hear that again. This is the end. And then right here. Okay, this is where the other track started. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our line right here. If you notice at the top, I got to tell you a secret. I already actually went through and found all the starts and finishes to the song just to save time here. But I did not split this particular track. And what we need to do is wherever this vertical line is, that's called the playhead. Sometimes it's called the cursor. We want to split all the tracks right there, all the way down. And so in Waveform 13, the way you do that is, first of all, you want to select all the tracks. And on a Mac, and it could be different on Windows, for me it's a Command key and an A. So I'm going to hit Command A. And it looks like, it doesn't look like we're all selected here. Command A. All right, there we go. So we selected all the tracks. And then I believe the same on the Mac and the same on Windows, the / key is the key to split at the playhead or split at the cursor. So if I just simply hit a /, you can see that it cut them. Now I have a separate clip for this song on the left side, and I have a separate clip for the next song on the right-hand side. And if I squish this down, let me just unselect all the files, you can see this black line where it's two clips now, one on one side, one on the other. If we move on down, I did the same thing. I found the end of this song, and I found the beginning of this song. I placed the cursor or the playhead. I selected all the tracks, in my case on a Mac, Command A, and then the /, and it split the tracks in half. And so if I squish this way down, I'm zooming out, you can see that there are, I believe, 19 different recordings of songs or whatever. Some are longer than the others because the band, at the end of the song, they're talking about things that they should have done or questioning, how the song starts and whatever the case might be. And I capture that so that when they re-listen to it, they'll be able to listen back on that and understand what they were discussing about the song. So that's basically it for splitting them up. And so now that we have everything split up and we're able to interact with each song, we can go ahead and start interacting with each song. But again, just to recap, put your playhead by clicking wherever, might be here, wherever the cut needs to be made. Okay. Then I say Command A, which selects all the tracks, and then /. And you'll see that it split them again, no matter where that playhead was. Now, on a Mac, I can do Command Z and undo that. I'm assuming there's a command or a menu item setting such that you can undo the previous thing done. And there you go. We got the tracks all split up so that we can create the number of tracks that we want in the end. Let's see if we can count them here. I'm zooming out all the way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 different tracks that we'll produce from this. So in the next section, we'll talk now about how I can interact with the volume levels, the panning of each section now. And by the way, the proper terminology is this little square box is called an audio clip. And so what we're going to want to do is modify all the clips in a particular song or whichever ones we need in order to raise volume, change panning, or whatever the case be, so that it'll sound better. You can get some instruments to come out better or go further into the background, as we'll see. And just as a note, too, if you look at the bass guitar here, that's pretty heavy waveform. And so I'm suggesting that just looking at a waveform, you can tell which direction you're going to need to go. Either to minimize, lower the gain so it's not quite so loud. But in the case of maybe some vocals, we need to probably turn them up a little bit. We'll see. Let's attack the very first song in this project, and let's see if we can make it sound good. So let's do that next. Okay, in this section, we're ready to actually do a little mixing, but again, this is not a full mixing tutorial. We're just going to make things sound a little bit better so that we can take a listen later and basically hear everything that we can hear. So what we'll do is, if you see in the screen here, I can zoom it back out. We have the first audio clip. I think it's a song called Boom 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 by Muddy Waters, I think. And we have the first track at the top and then going all the way down. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to hit play and we're going to see what sticks out and what does not stick out. But before we make any adjustments, I'm going to give you a couple of pointers for this. When you select a clip, right, you'll notice on the left-hand side here, there's this panel. It's called Actions. And you get to that in the upper left corner. We were, I think, in Files before. I just go to Actions, and now we can actually change the characteristics of this clip. If you want to change Leanne's vocals, you do it there. If you want do this other female vocal, you just do it right there. So let's also take a look on the right side. On the right side, you have some other things that you can do for the track. And if you think about a traditional mixer where you have sliders and faders, that's what this next to this plus sign is for a particular track. If you put your mouse by the horizontal line, you'll see that it gives you an up and down arrow. That's for raising that fader up or lowering it down. If you go a little higher, you'll see a left and right arrow. And when you click there and change your mouse, you'll be changing the panning from one side to the other. So this is where you do your basic volume leveling and your panning. Over a little bit further for each channel, there's an M and an S. And these were important when you were trying to figure out what the tracks are, if you didn't know ahead of time. Because you could go into a track, let's say we're listening to Bob's vocals, and we hear the whole thing, right? You hear everything in the background. But what's going to happen is when I hit S, that's solo. That's going to only let us listen to Bob's vocals. So there's everything else is out except for Bob's vocals, and you'll hear it here in just a second.
And you talk that talk.
Okay, he's coming back in with his vocals.
Walk that walk. Walk that walk, baby. And you talk that talk.
Okay, we take the solo off, we get everything back. Very simple. If I want to take Bob's vocals out, right? Let me put this back so we can hear Bob singing. If I want to take them out, I hit the M button here on the right-hand side. So let me try that. Mute on. No more Bob vocals except for what you can hear in the background through other microphones. There you go. We got it back. Again, solo.
You know what knocks me out? Talking like that.
So keep in mind that there's a lot of other microphones in the room for vocals. One on the bass, one over the drums. There's one in front of a guitar amp here. And so all those microphones, if you're not playing anything like, let's say, through the guitar amp, you're going to hear the room noise. And so that's why when I take Bob out of the mix, he's not totally gone, because it's being picked up by other microphones. So those are the basics. I can select a clip. Remember, this is an audio clip. I can then go over to the left and I can change its gain and its panning, or I can mute it, like I found all the way over here on the right. This mute is the same as the mute on the other side. And then solo, volume level of the track, and then panning of the track, left and right. Those are the basic things we're going to do right now, just to sort of bring this mix so that it sounds a little bit better. So what is missing here? And again, you can approach this any way you want. But what I think right now is I hear some guitar in the back, but I don't really hear it very well. So, and I think it's this guitar right here. So we can select that audio clip. We can go ahead and hit play, or hit the space bar in my case. We don't really hear it. So what you can do is, over here on the gain, we can click on it and raise it up. I'm going to put it up to +12. So we hear the guitar now. And in fact, if we solo it while we're playing, we'll know what we're listening to. So we go down inside. Okay, Okay, now we've soloed the guitar. And we could take it out as well. So now that sounds a little bit better, right? We got a little more guitar in the mix. And we have not changed on the right side here the volume level that's going into the mix. What we did change was the input gain, or the amount of signal that's flowing into the track. And in fact, if you notice, let's select this again. If you look at the waveform down here in the track, you'll notice that when I slide this way, see how it gets really small? Looks like it's disappeared. And then as I slowly raise it, we see we're getting a better signal in here. So I'm going to go back to 12 point something. And then the next thing I notice is that maybe the bass is a little heavy. And so what I'm going to do first is, because I believe if you look at the other tracks, I'm going to adjust it clip by clip, only because in this second song here, it looks like he's playing a little lighter, but then he's back pounding again here. I don't mean pounding is a bad thing. He's hitting the bass pretty good. And so you can look at the waveform and tell basically what you need to do with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that clip. I'm going to go over on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to bring it down just a little bit. And let's see how that sounds now. Let's go back. Almost disappeared, didn't it? Let me bring it up.
And you walk that walk. Walk that walk.
Bring it up, makes it really big.
Whisper in my ear.
That's more respectable, right? It's not overpowering the mix. That's pretty good. So that's good. So my next thing would be, and again, this is my own personal preference, I want to hear the vocals better, right? I want to make sure that the vocals are loud enough so that you can hear them, but not too loud that it overdrives the rest of it. So I'm going to select this clip, and I'm going to go back and play it. And I'm going to bring the gain up.
You talk that talk, and you walk that walk. Walk that walk, baby.
Okay, so now we got
And you talk that talk.
the volume level of the
Whisper in
vocals
my
up much
ear.
better.
And take it like that. No.
So I would do that track by track to figure out what I want to raise, what I want to lower, what I want to do. Now, I believe this is not recorded with stereo in mind, as I mentioned in the previous sections. But if Bob's organ here was a left and right stereo pair, then I would suggest that you come over to the right side here and grab onto the pan and do one of them left, and you can see it by the little blue dot there, which is hard to see. And I would take the second organ and I would grab it, put my arrow, so I get my horizontal arrow, click on it, and then drag it to the right. So now Bob's organ is panned left and right. I don't think it makes a difference because they're exactly the same signal. And maybe in future setups we'll figure out how to get stereo out of his organ and his piano, because as you can see here, I have piano that could be left, right. And then I do believe we also have another, okay, yeah, so Bob's piano, left and right. This one, piano, guitar, the guy that plays it has his own mixer. And so he sends a signal to the board, but he plugs his guitar or his keyboard into it. And depending on what he's playing, he doesn't play them both at the same time. So you can go through each track and raise and lower volume levels, gain levels, volume levels, panning to make this thing sound pretty good. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, and this is going to switch to fast motion now. I'm going to spend a little time playing with this particular song to see if I can make things better. Now, the one thing you can learn from doing the first song is when you go down the line, you may end up doing the exact same things for these. You may not. Like in the case of the bass player, I think the bass player in the second song was playing kind of light. Let's see. It's not very heavy. Let's see if we can raise these. Now we hear some of the bass. So just because you do something on one track doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same thing. But again, if you look at song 4 or 3, let's see. We got 1, we got 2, look at 3 here. Let's play where he gets hot and heavy down here. Doesn't sound too bad. I think it's at the right level because you can still hear it. So I think that's fine. So the waveform, the heavier they are, the louder it probably is going to be. But in this case, it didn't turn out like that because he must have been playing a little differently, and who knows. So let me go off now on this first song, and let me see if I can make things sound a little bit better in the mix. And I'm going to do a fast forward here as I do this, because you don't want to sit and watch this. Okay, well, I kind of got it so that it sounds good. The one thing I was going to mention about this particular recording is, as I mentioned early on, 2 of the tracks you get are the main output from the mixer. So what's going to the PA while you're playing, this is what you're also capturing. So if you think you have a good mix, well, then all you need is the main out left and main out right. And you can cut those up and mix them and make them sound better. But in the case of what we just did, we went ahead and muted out some of the channels that I didn't think we really needed to hear for that song. Now remember, when you get to the next song, you have to unmute those if there's material on that track. So in this case, 1, 2, there's 2 vocals there that wasn't there. This is an empty track. We didn't need that. The fiddle track, we didn't need that because there was nothing there. And then if we go down here towards the bottom, we have some other vocals. Bob's organ, I don't think, was playing during this. And then further down, we have the main out left and right, and then we have 2 empty tracks. I could just remove those empty tracks, but in the interest of time, we're just leaving them in there so that you can see that they're there. So this song now, I think, kind of sounds as good as it's going to get for, for viewing purposes. So let's play a little of it and see how it sounds.
Boom, boom, boom. Gonna shoot you right down.
maybe the
your
drums
feet,
can come
babe,
on.
and take you home with me. I put you in my house. Boom, boom, boom. I love to see you strut up and down that floor. And when you talk to me, babe, you know I like it like that.
Okay, not too bad, not too
You
shallow.
know I like that talk.
So it sounds like you can hear everything, everything that's playing, everything that you need to play. But again, it's not a full production. If I were to go further on this, I would probably put some reverb, more reverb in the vocals, maybe a little reverb in the guitars, maybe a little compression on the bass. We're not there. We're just trying to get this practice session cut up in pieces, mixed basically, so that we can create output files to save them so we can share them. Okay, so there you go. I mean, that's as easy as it gets using Waveform 13. The next section, I think what we're going to talk about is, okay, so I've done all these, right? So if you remember, there's 18 or whatever songs here. Each vertical stack is a song. So we've mixed all those. We've got them sounding pretty good. Once you've done all that, then you want to save them as individual files. And that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so now that we have this project mixed up, if you remember, we went all the way down and we touched every single song and made sure that the levels were correct and it sounded as good as we can get it. And again, this is not a full production. We just want it to sound halfway decent so the bandmates can listen to it and make some improvements or just hear what they did. A lot of time in a live setting, it sounds way different than when you record it. And so a recording may expose some things that you really want to practice or improve on. To do this now, what we do is we select the top track and make sure that you're scrolled all the way to the top because we don't want to miss any. So click on the first track and highlight it, and then go down to the bottom where you want to end your selection. I'm just going to pick them all except for the last two. And what I do is I hit Shift, click. And as you see, it selected everything between the first one that I selected down to the last one I selected. There are ways to do this manually by picking them one at a time. This is really, I'm doing this so that we can show some efficiency here and just getting them all done. Don't worry if you have a track that's empty and it's included in the rendering of the mixdown. Don't worry, because if it's muted or it's not playing anything, it's not going to affect the output. Once we have them selected, if we go down to the left side here, lower left, under File, and we want to pick Export Render to a File. And when we do that, we get this dialog that lets us pick all the characteristics of how we want to write this thing out. The very first thing I want to make sure you do for the very first time you do this is there's a selection down here called Render Automatically. Don't have that checked, and I'll show you why. I think by default it is. If you click on it, you'll see the gray box below. It's actually rendering the file based on whatever settings are in this dialog. And when it's done with that, it writes it out to a file. We don't want to do that yet because, number one, we haven't picked the name of the file. And number two, we may not have picked the format or the characteristics of this. So I want to make sure that the very first time you do this, you uncheck that. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to cancel. This is only the first time. And now when we go back down to our lower level on the left here and select File, Render, now we can see that gray box. It's not doing anything. It's not going to write any files. It's not going to create a live preview. It's just waiting for you now to pick the characteristics of what it is you want to write out. The very first thing is the file name. So make sure you grab only the file name portion, because this actually shows you the path to where that file is going to be written. And we might want to rename this to bbb_song1. And it's going to write the file bbb_song1.mp3. Now, how do we want to write this? The format right here, if you click it, yep, the file already exists. Okay, we understand that. The format that we want to pick is MP3, if it wasn't chosen already. You can see here that it says MP3. You can do a WAV file, AIFF, and there's a bunch of different formats, but we want to pick MP3. And when we do that, it's going to write out into an MP3 format. We want stereo, we want to keep the sample rate the same, the sample size, and we just want to kind of take all the other defaults here, with one exception. I think by default normalize is checked. We do not want to have that checked, because that's going to alter the volume level of the output, and we don't want to do that. We want to write it out exactly as we have it mixed. And once you do that, you're ready to save this file off. Now, one other thing about MP3s. MP3s have the ability to carry metadata, and the metadata has to do with what the song name is, the band name, when it was done, if it's a part of a grouping of songs, and so on and so forth. And so by default, I don't think this is checked, but when you check it, you'll notice an edit button show up on the side here. And if we choose edit, we can now add that metadata in there. And you'll see that I preloaded it with the Bones Band. The title is Practice 715. The album is Jamming 2025, whatever the case might be. And you can put comments in here as well. And as well, you can pick a genre. Any case, you can fill that in or not. It doesn't really change the sound of the music. It's just so that when you're looking at it in your MP3 player, you actually can see, you know, some information about it. And then once we're done here, we just say render. So I'm going to pick render, and you'll see that it's exporting the file. And it goes pretty fast. It's not real time. It's faster than real time, meaning that if it's a 6-minute song, it could render it in, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds. Depends on this, you know, how good your computer is, I guess. And so we have our first song written out to a file. And then the next job now is going to be, and go down the line here and do each individual file. And then you'll get them all written out. So now that we have all of our files written out, our MP3 files, I wanted to maybe do a little recap here on some things that you'd think about moving forward. And it's always with the complexity of these things, even when they're free, this is a really full-featured digital audio workstation. It's pretty darn good. And in order to make this video, I had to kind of learn it. So hopefully I conveyed it in a way that was simple and straightforward for you. But one of the questions that came up in my mind was, where is everything? As we noticed before, when we were writing files out, that the file name had this path in it. And I think what happens is, when you install this software, it's going to put it in a particular place, but it's also going to create directories, one of them called exported. So we can see exported right there. If you go and look to where this software was installed, underneath you'll find this exported directory. And if you really want to know where it is, here it is. And again, this is on my Mac, so it may look different in Windows, but here's the full path to where this directory is. That's where you're going to find the song files that you just created. And so I wanted to make sure that when you're done here, and then you're scratching your head trying to figure out, okay, I saw it write files out, but where the heck did they go? That's where they went. The other thing is, I noticed as I was doing this, is that it seemed like most of the signals, most of the wave files here, were somewhat consistent. I think the bass I found was up and down depending on how he was playing, and that's pretty typical. But I think in order to improve the speed in which you can do this is to really concentrate on the mixing board and the levels that you're sending to the recording. Because if you get those right, or at least close to right, there's a lot less editing that you're going to have to do in this particular part of the process. And so that's something that you want to look forward. And it may take you a time or two from one recording practice to another to kind of tweak those and get them in line. And you'll see that your speed in doing what we did here will improve because there's less editing and less changing of things that you'll have to do. And so I want to thank you for watching the video. I'm hoping that Tracktion Waveform 13 is something that you're going to have fun using, and look forward to other videos that I'll be making in the future to maybe go into a little more in-depth stuff. Like I said before, I'm a Pro Tools, Logic, Studio One guy, and I am very used to using those tools. But I'm finding this free digital audio workstation software is pretty darn good, at least for doing some very basic things. But I could also see doing some pretty complex things that maybe we'll cover in the future. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Go get 'em.